Hello guys, you're welcome to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome back. And if you're a new subscriber, you're welcome to the family. So I'm going to be sewing this Madam Igbo blouse that I drafted. I've already posted it earlier on. So I'm going to make use of this blue lace and also an organza. I'm going to be using that for the hand, my thread, and also this zip. I like making use of this zip because it's more stronger. This zip that has invisible head is more stronger and it's sold for 250 around my area. And then I went ahead to make use of this bridal satin that you see here. You can make use of any inner lining of your choice, but not the aba lining, no. So this aba lining that I'm making use of is for the outer part, just to cover the padded. Now I'm going to be making use of this padded. It's not that soft, it's not that strong, it's just in between. Depend on what the client wants or what you want. So now I've gone ahead to use my pattern paper to cut on the lace material, and I use half-inch all round. I cut out with half-inch all round. That will be for my stitching allowance. Then I cut two pieces of the side front, two pieces of the back, and then for the center front here I cut in fold, as you can see. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the padded. So this padded I cut into two pieces is for the side front. So I'm just going to go ahead and place this. So the padded is going to be stopping at the under bust line, which is exactly this line that I have here, which is the under bust line. And then I also cut the center front padded in fold, as you can see. So it's going to be stopping at the under bust line also. This is how it's going to be. And now I will go ahead to cut out the lining for the back and the front. So this is the lining, this is the bridal satin that I'm making use of. I cut it into two pieces, and then the lining I'm going to use to turn it into two pieces, and this is for the back. And then for the side front, I went ahead to cut two pieces of the lining and then two pieces of the bridal satin, as you can see. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the side, the center front of this top. So I cut it in fold. This is my bridal satin that I cut in fold, and then I'll cut the lining I'm going to use and turn it also in fold. So this is how it is. I'll just quickly remove this, and then I'm going to be placing the bridal satin under the back of the lace. So I'm going to make sure that the shiny part of my bridal satin is facing under, like the back of the lace, just like this. Then I'll go ahead to stitch with my machine all around. I'll be doing the same thing for the side front. So just make sure the shiny part is showing under the lace. I'll repeat the same process on the other side. Now I'll head over to my sewing machine and stitch all around. So after I was done stitching all around, the next thing I'm going to do now is to apply my padded. So for me to apply my padded, this is the center front. I'm going to be cutting out about half-inch at the top of the padded. And the reason for doing this is because I don't want, when I'm trying to sew that top part, it will be too strong for me to sew. So I'll just go ahead and place it this way, minusing half-inch before placing the padded. As you can see, I'll just go ahead to pin this down. and then I will repeat the same process for the side front. So I'm going to be cutting half inch. This is the side front part. I'm going to be cutting out half inch, and then I'll be placing one of it. I'll make sure the shiny part is facing the bridal satin, and then I'll go ahead and minus the half inch before placing the padded. So I'll just go ahead and pin this down. I'll repeat the same process on the other side of the front, that is the side front part. After doing that, I will go over to my sewing machine and stitch it together. So after I'm done stitching this together, as you can see, that half inch at the top is still there. Now I'm going to go ahead and place one of the side fronts to the center front this way. So I'm going to be stitching with half inch, and I will also place the other side of the side front to the center front this way, and I will stitch down with half inch because that is the allowance I left while I was cutting on my fabric with my pattern paper. After doing that, this is what I have, as you can see. The next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and notch it. So after notching it, I'm going to be using my tailor's ham. This is if you don't want to top stitch at the front, just use your tailor's ham to open these stitches that you have here, and then use your iron to iron flat. So you repeat the same process on the other joining at the pad. But mine, I'm going to be stitching the top part. I'm going to be top stitching from the side of the padded. So I'll just face that stitches, that joining of the padded to the side, and then top stitch on it at the front of this top. So after I was done doing that, this is what I have. So just make sure like your stitches is straight. Make sure your hand is very straight when you are stitching on top of this blouse. Now after doing that, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do now is to apply my lining. So I've gone ahead to sew my lining the same way I sew the main lace, and I went ahead to top stitch on it, as you can see. Now the next thing I'm going to do, because I want the material, the lace, to be going inside a bit, what I'm going to do now is to minus about 1 inch from the lining itself. This is about lining. I'll minus about 1 inch. So after I'm done minusing that 1 inch, I'll go ahead and place it this way, right side facing right side, like this, and I'll make sure the joinings are aligning together. On the line, the joining of the on the fabric, on the lace is aligning with the joining on the upper lining. Now after doing that, I'll just go ahead and stitch around this way. So after I'm done stitching around, I went ahead to top stitch it from the upper lining part. Now I'll go ahead and turn it over this way, and then pin it at the top. I'll make sure the joining of the upper lining is matching the joining of my cup on the lace. So after doing it, I'll just go ahead, use my pin to pin this down, and I'll head over to my sewing machine to stitch the top part and the two sides. So after I was done doing that, this is what I have. As you can see, I've gone ahead to top stitch the two sides. I didn't top stitch the neck line. As you can see how the lining is going inside with the material a little bit. Now after doing this, I will go ahead to, now if you want to make use of your hemming tape, you can just hemming gum or hemming tape, you can just cut this a bit, place it at that neck area, then iron it. This is if you don't want to be using your hand needle to actually tack the lining, so it won't be showing at the front of this lace, so of this top. Mine, I like using my hand, to use my hand needle to tack this. That is what I like doing, but it's totally optional. Now go ahead and stitch the armpit area. So after doing that, I'm going to proceed to start sewing the back part. Now I'm going ahead to apply my bridal satin on the back part, as you can see. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring out my lining, and I'll make sure I'm placing them the right way, as you can see. So what I'm going to do now is at that down part, I'm going to be minusing 1 inch, just like I did for the front part. I'll minus down 1 inch because if I want the lace to be going inside the lining part with about 1 inch or half inch is okay. So I'll repeat the same process on the other part of the back. Now I'll go ahead to stitch it and then top stitch it from the lining part. So just make sure that the armpit is facing the armpit, the neck part is facing the neck part before you go ahead to join it. After I've joined it, I went ahead to top stitch it, and then I'm going to turn it over this way. Then I will stitch the zipper part, the neck part, and the outside part. So after I was done doing that, this is what I have. Now for me to mark where I'm going to be placing my dart, from that my waist area, just mark your waist area. Remember it's 1.5 inches I use as my zipper allowance part. But after minusing half inch for the bulge, I'm going to be having 1 inch. So I'm just minusing 1 inch from my waist area there to mark my 4 inches for the dart. Now on this top part here, I did not minus any half inch for any bulge at that top part. So I'll just minus 1.5 inches there, and then I'll just mark out the 4 inches and then just trace it this way. Now on this other part here, on that line, I'm going to be coming up by 1.5 inches. So after coming up by 1.5 inches, I'm going to be minusing 1.5 inches around that area, mark my 4 inches for my dart, and then I'll go ahead to top stitch on that line. The reason for doing this is because sometimes when you don't do it this way, to hold it, you won't be able to hold the net, like the lace together with the bridal satin, like the lining inside. So I normally like top stitching it on top, and this is mostly for beginners. Just top stitch it on top before you start, taking your dart, just as I'm doing now. So I'm just going to mark down my waist point there, and then I'll just take my dart. Now after doing that, this is what I have, as you can see. The next thing I'm going to do is to apply my zip. So after I'm done applying my zip, I'm going to be applying my zip in an invisible way. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and join the two sides together. I'm going to be shaping it. So when putting your zip, just make sure that you're placing the zip the right way. Use your chalk to mark where you are going to be placing the zip from. So at the top part, I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches. Then at the waist area, I'm going to be marking 1 inch. Then at that down part here, I'm going to be marking 1.5 inches. Remember, we only minus half inch from the waist area for the zipper part to avoid bulge. So that is the reason why that waist part have 1 inch. And that's the reason why I'm minusing 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches. Now on that line is where I'm going to be sewing my zip on. So doing it this way makes it more easier. Now I'm going ahead to shape this my madam blouse I'm sewing. As you can see, I'm going ahead to apply the zip also. Now I'm going to proceed to cutting the sleeve. Now to cut the sleeve, I went ahead to measure out the sleeve length, which is 16 inches. So I just went ahead to add 1 inch extra for the stitching allowance at the top. Now from that liner that I mark, I'm going to be taking 5 inches, and then I'm going to be adding 1 inch for stitching allowance, making it 6 inches. Now I'm going to be coming down here by 4 inches. Then I'll rule a straight line on that 4 inches I came down by. Now I'm going to be taking the armhole circumference divided by 2, which gave me 9 inches. Then I'll come down from that line now by 2 inches. Now I'll go ahead to rule a straight line there. After ruling a straight line, I'm going to be taking her bicep measurement. A bicep measurement is 14 inches divided by 2 will give me 7 inches. Now I'm going to be marking that 7 inches there plus 1 inch for ease. So now I'll just go ahead and connect it this way, and then from this point I'll connect it this way. So now from the full length, I'm just going to be coming up by at 4 inches. This is where our elbow stops. So from that 4 inches I came up by, that line I marked there, I'm going to be taking our elbow measurement, which is 13 inches divided by 2. So whatever I have, I'm going to be marking it on that line that I took as her elbow line. Then I'll add 1 inch for ease and then connect it this way. Now on the her full length of this sleeve, the roundness, which is this part here, I'm going to be dividing what I have there by 2, and then I'll place 1 around there, and I'll add 1 inch for ease. So now I'll go ahead and connect it this way. And this is all for this sleeve. The next thing I'm going to be doing is to add my allowance of 1.5 inches. You can add 1 inch depending on the allowance that you want, but mine I'm adding 1.5 inches. Now we'll go ahead to connect it this way and then extend it to my allowance line. So while cutting, I'm not going to be cutting out my stitching allowance at the top. I'll just go ahead to cut it out this way, not exactly on that line I have there. Just leave about ½ inch or 0.25. Now this is all for the sleeve, as you can see. The next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the second piece of the sleeve. Now this is totally optional. If you want to slant this part, it's totally optional. This is to make it more off shoulder. Now I'll go ahead and cut out the second sleeve. You can actually cut this together, but I decided to cut mine separately. I don't know why, but I just decided to cut it separately. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out the band I'm going to be using to pipe that top part. So you can go ahead and make use of a bolder material. This is the bridal satin. I made use of almost 2.5 inches. So you can make use of a bolder band there. It depends on what you have. This is what I have, so I'm making use of what I have with me here. But making use of a bolder band will make it to be more beautiful. So now I'll go ahead and place it like this, and then I'll trim out to the shape of the sleeve itself. After doing that, I'll just go ahead and trim out this part also. Like I said, that part is totally optional. Now after doing that, I'm going to use my bridal satin to just stitch this part this way, and then I'll turn it to the other side. So after I'm done stitching it with that my half-inch allowance I left while I was cutting the sleeve, I stitched it from the front. Then I will go ahead to stop stitch it this way on top that stitch that I have on the that top, that main stitch that I used to join the band and the main sleeve. So after I'm done top stitching it, as you can see, this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and turn the remaining bridal satin to the wrong part of the sleeve and then stitch both sides. That's why I said you can make use of a bolder band. It depends on what you have. 5 inches is okay to get that bolder band. Now this is the design I'm going to be using this organza to make a design for the sleeve. So first of all, I'll just go ahead to cut this out to be equal, like to have like the same shape, straight shape. So I'll go ahead and pin this down, and then I'll go ahead to cut this out to have a straight shape. So after I'm done doing that, I'll just unpin this, and then I'll head over to my sewing machine to stitch that opening part. I'll stitch it to the other end. Now I'm done stitching it to the other end, as you can see. The next thing I'm going to do is to turn this over to the right side. So after I'm done turning this over to the right side, I went ahead to make sure I place that stitching at the middle this way. And then I'm going to be cutting this into two equal half. So I'm going to be managing these to um put as a design for the sleeve. Now if you want yours to be more fuller, just go ahead and make use of a more the more the length, the more fuller the design is going to be on the sleeve. So now I'm going to be doing this like kissing print, but the kissing print I'm going to be doing this as is not going to be that much of a kissing print, except you have enough organza to actually kiss, as in to actually kiss the print very well. So now this is the sleeve. I'm just going to, from the middle part of the sleeve, I've gone ahead to do the other side, the other part of the hand. Now this is how I did this other side. I will just quickly show you. Now just go ahead and stitch this part, or you pin it down. I'm actually placing this on the middle of that sleeve. I'll go ahead and pin this other side down also. After pinning this down, I'll make sure that 1.5 inches allowance I have, that I'm not starting my kissing print from that part. So I'll go ahead to start doing the kissing print. Now because what I'm using here is actually not enough, so I'm not going to be kissing the print that much. So just watch closely what I'm doing. So if I fold it, I'm going to pin it down until I do it in a way that it will be okay for me, before I'll head to my sewing machine to run a straight stitch in between. Now after doing it the way I want, I'll just run a straight stitch, and this is how it is, as you can see. Now I'll just go ahead to fix this to the main body of my blouse. So I'm just making sure I have the same shape here, or the same length here. So now this is my blouse. I'm going to be fixing the hand to the blouse. So just watch closely what I'm doing. The right side facing the right side, do not forget. So before doing that, I like making sure I have everything I have is equal. The shaping is equal to the shaping of the back and front. I'll go ahead to trim this allowance a bit. Now I will start fixing my sleeve. The right side facing the right side. So I'll go ahead to pin this down. The reason for always fixing my sleeve this way is so that the joining will be at the middle, at the joining of the two sides. So the two joint at the joining of the sleeve will be at the joining of the shaping of the main blouse itself. Now after I was done sewing the other part of the back, I went ahead to turn it this way, and then this is what I did. I went ahead to turn it this way, as you can see, and then I went ahead to pin this down. So I'm basically sewing the front part now. After I was done sewing the front part, this is what I have. Now I'm going to be closing the sleeve. So I'll just turn this to the back, and then I'll go ahead to use that 1.5 inches. You can see why I like doing this. So I'll make sure it's at the middle of the joining of the blouse, the side joining of the blouse. Then I'll go ahead to use my 1.5 inches to stitch to close the sleeve. Now after doing that, this is what I have, as you can see. So I'll just fold this way and fold the sleeve excess this way, that is the allowance, and then stitch it a little bit. After doing that, this is what I have for the sleeve. That's why I said the more fuller your organza is, the more finer it's going to be. So this is the design I made for this sleeve. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other sleeve. So after I was done fixing the two sleeves, this is what I have. This is how lovely it's looking like. So please don't forget to subscribe, comment, share, ask question. I will see you in my next tutorial. But for now, bye and thanks for watching.